Little girl complains about itchy head. Teacher removes her hat and dials 911 in panic. Before we dive into the story, drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. Enjoy the story. The morning sun filtered through the windows of Maple Creek Elementary, as Ms. Eleanor Carter arranged. Colorful alphabet cards on the reading corner wall. 26 years of teaching had taught her that first impressions matter, especially on the first day of school. She wanted everything perfect for her new first-grade class. "Ms. Carter?" a gentle voice called from the doorway. Eleanor turned to see Principal Douglas with a small girl partially hidden behind him. The child wore a vibrant purple knit hat pulled down to her eyebrows, despite the warm September morning. "This is Sophie Williams," Principal Douglas said. "She's joining us a week late. Family just moved to Pinewood." Eleanor approached with a warm smile, kneeling to the child's eye level. "Hello, Sophie, I'm so happy you're joining our class." Sophie's blue eyes darted nervously around the room, her small fingers clutching the edge of her purple hat as if afraid it might fly away. Eleanor noticed the slight tremble in the girl's shoulders, the worn edges of her backpack, and the too large sweater that hung from her thin frame. "I like your hat," Eleanor offered gently. "Purple is my favorite color." For the first time, Sophie's expression brightened slightly. "My mommy says I have to keep it on," she whispered, then quickly looked down at her scuffed shoes. As Principal Douglas left, Eleanor guided Sophie to a desk near the front. "You're sitting beside Lily," she explained. "She loves drawing, just like you will soon discover I do too." Throughout that first morning, Eleanor observed Sophie carefully. The girl was quiet but attentive, her eyes following Eleanor's every movement during lessons. Occasionally, Sophie would reach up and scratch her head beneath the purple hat, a quick furtive movement, as if she didn't want anyone to notice. During snack time, Eleanor watched as Sophie unwrapped a simple peanut butter sandwich while other children enjoyed their colorful lunchboxes filled with fruits, yogurts, and juice boxes. Sophie ate slowly, methodically, savoring each small bite as if uncertain when her next meal would come. "Why do you wear that hat inside?" asked Trevor, a boisterous boy with a perpetual chocolate milk mustache. "My mom says hats are for outside." Sophie's shoulders hunched protectively. "My mommy says I need it," she replied, her voice barely audible. Before Trevor could press further, Lily, a gentle soul with dark braids and kind eyes, intervened. "I think it's pretty. Purple is the color of royalty, my grandma says." Sophie offered Lily a grateful glance, the first real smile Eleanor had seen from her. Later, during art time, Eleanor noticed Sophie's careful, precise coloring, staying perfectly within the lines, conserving crayon pressure as if afraid to waste resources. When Eleanor complimented her work, Sophie beamed momentarily before her expression clouded again. As the children filed out for recess, Eleanor reached for the coat hooks. "Sophie, would you like to leave your hat here while you play outside? It's quite warm today." Sophie's eyes widened in alarm. "No!" she exclaimed, then immediately looked embarrassed by her outburst. "I mean, my mommy says I can't take it off. Not ever at school." Eleanor nodded reassuringly. "That's perfectly fine, sweetie. You keep it on as long as you need to." Watching Sophie on the playground, playing alone at the edge of the field, occasionally scratching her head when she thought no one was looking, Eleanor felt a familiar ache in her chest. 26 years of teaching had also taught her to recognize the signs of a child carrying burdens too heavy for their small shoulders. As Sophie scratched her head again, wincing slightly, Eleanor made a silent promise to discover what secret the purple hat was hiding, and to help, however she could. The teacher's lounge at Maple Creek Elementary hummed with the usual Monday morning conversations. Eleanor stirred her coffee thoughtfully, her mind still on Sophie Williams and her purple hat. "Have you met the new girl yet? The one from Pinewood Trailer Park?" Mrs. Peterson, the second-grade teacher, asked loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Poor thing. Those trailer park kids always come with issues." Several teachers nodded. Knowingly, Eleanor felt her jaw tighten. Her mother dropped her off today, continued Mrs. Peterson. Looked exhausted, clothes all wrinkled, car barely running. Maybe we should send home some donation forms, suggested another teacher. Winter's coming and those trailers get so cold. The conversation halted as James Mitchell, the school custodian, entered to refill his thermos. Eleanor noticed how the other teachers suddenly found their phones fascinating. James, with his salt and pepper beard and kind eyes, had worked at Maple Creek for 15 years. Everyone respected his work ethic, but few knew much about him. Morning, Eleanor, James nodded, pouring coffee. New class settling in okay? Mostly, Eleanor replied. I have a new student, Sophie Williams, from Pinewood. Something flickered across James's face. Recognition, perhaps concern. Williams, April's daughter? You know the family? James hesitated. Pinewood's a small community. April was a few years behind me in school, smart as a whip. He lowered his voice. Don't believe everything you hear in this room, Eleanor. Folks at Pinewood are proud people facing tough times, especially since the factory closure. Before Eleanor could ask more, the bell rang. As she gathered her materials, James added quietly, That park's had water problems for months now. Town keeps promising repairs, but... He shrugged. Just something to keep in mind. Back in her classroom, Eleanor watched Sophie more carefully. The girl scratched her head frequently, though she tried to disguise it as adjusting her hat. During reading circles, Eleanor noticed other children subtly moving away from Sophie. Ms. Carter, Trevor whispered loudly. My mom says trailer park kids bring germs to school. Eleanor's response was immediate. In this classroom, Trevor, we respect everyone, and germs can live anywhere, in mansions or trailers or even on your lunchbox. Sophie pretended not to hear, but her hunched shoulders told Eleanor otherwise. At recess, Eleanor approached Barbara, the school nurse. A no-nonsense woman with 20 years of healthcare experience. That new girl, Sophie Williams, Barbara mused when Eleanor mentioned her concerns. The one with the purple hat? I noticed her scratching. Probably just lice. It spreads like wildfire this time of year. She refuses to remove the hat, Eleanor explained. Says her mother insists she keep it on. Barbara frowned. Could be lice, could be ringworm. Hard to say without seeing. Want me to call her in for a routine check? Eleanor considered this. Let me try something first. That afternoon, Eleanor placed a note in Sophie's backpack, a friendly invitation for her mother to join her for coffee, along with information about the school's free breakfast program. As she did, Eleanor noticed Sophie's folder contained perfectly completed homework, the handwriting remarkably neat for a 6-year-old. Did someone help you with this, Sophie? Eleanor asked gently. Sophie nodded. Mommy helps me after her first job before her night job. She says education is... She concentrated, clearly reciting, the only way out. At dismissal, Eleanor watched Sophie run to a tired-looking compact car where a young woman, presumably April, waited. Even from a distance, Eleanor could see the same blonde hair as Sophie, though April's was pulled back severely. As they drove away, the car made a concerning rattling sound. Walking to her own car, Eleanor passed two mothers chatting. Did you see that Williams girl, always wearing that hat? One whispered. My Jenny says she scratches constantly. Probably hasn't had a proper bath in weeks. Eleanor paused, tempted to intervene, but something held her back. Judgments formed quickly in small towns like Maple Creek. Breaking them would take more than a teacher's reprimand. As she drove home, Eleanor remembered her own childhood. Her mother working double shifts, the careful budgeting, the sidelong glances from teachers when her lunch consisted of just a sandwich. Some struggles hadn't changed in 30 years. Eleanor made a decision. If April Williams didn't respond to her note, she would find another way to help Sophie. The mystery of the purple hat would not go unanswered. 3 days passed with no response from April Williams. Each morning, Sophie arrived wearing her purple hat, and each day, Eleanor noticed her scratching becoming more frequent. During art time, Sophie created beautiful, detailed drawings, but would occasionally wince when she touched her head. "Excellent shading, Sophie," Eleanor praised, admiring a landscape the girl had drawn. "You have a real talent." Sophie smiled shyly, then quickly adjusted her hat. "Thank you, Ms. Carter. My daddy taught me before he—" She stopped abruptly, her smile fading. Eleanor waited, but Sophie remained silent, focusing intently on her drawing. Another piece of the puzzle, Eleanor thought. A father no longer present. At lunch, Eleanor noticed Sophie sitting alone again, until Lily approached with her unicorn lunchbox. "Want to share my apple slices?" Lily offered. Sophie hesitated, then nodded gratefully. Eleanor watched the budding friendship with hope, but her attention was drawn to a commotion at another table. "My mom says I can't sit by Sophie," announced Amber, a girl with perfectly braided hair. "She probably has cooties." Several children giggled. Sophie's face flushed red beneath her hat. "That's enough," Eleanor intervened. "In this classroom, everyone is welcome at every table." Later that afternoon, Principal Douglas appeared at her classroom door. "Ms. Carter, a word?" In the hallway, his expression was stern. "I've received calls from 3 parents concerned about possible hygiene issues with our new student." Eleanor felt a flare of indignation. Sophie Williams? She's clean, well-behaved, and completing all her work beautifully. They mentioned scratching. Persistent scratching. He lowered his voice. The word lice was used repeatedly. "Based on what evidence?" Eleanor challenged. "No one has even seen her head." Principal Douglas sighed. "Look, Eleanor, I know your heart is in the right place, but we have procedures. If there's a potential health concern, Nurse Barbara needs to examine the child. And if she refuses to remove her hat, then we contact the parent." His tone suggested the matter was closed. Standard protocol. After school, Eleanor sought out Barbara in the nurse's office. "I can't force her to remove the hat," Barbara explained, organizing bandages. "But I can send home our standard lice information sheet. All first-grade parents get it anyway." Eleanor frowned. "Everyone will know it's because of Sophie." "You're overthinking this," Barbara replied. "It's probably just stubborn lice. Happens all the time. Especially when—" She hesitated. "When families might not have regular access to laundry facilities." Eleanor remembered James's comment about water problems at Pinewood. What if it's something else? Barbara's expression softened. "Like what, Eleanor?" "I don't know, but something feels wrong." That evening, Eleanor drove slowly past Pinewood Trailer Park. Located on the outskirts of town, the once neat community had declined since the factory closure. She spotted Sophie's mother's car parked outside a small blue trailer. A clothesline held freshly washed children's clothes, contradicting the assumptions about the family's hygiene. Eleanor considered stopping, but something held her back. Uninvited visits could seem intrusive, judgmental. Instead, she wrote another note, more direct this time. "Dear Ms. Williams, I'm concerned about Sophie's comfort in class. She seems to be experiencing some discomfort with her scalp. I'd like to help if possible. Please call me or come by the school at your convenience. Sincerely, Eleanor Carter." The next morning, Sophie arrived with the purple hat firmly in place, but Eleanor noticed something new, a faint medicinal smell as if someone had applied topical treatment beneath the hat. When Sophie handed in her homework, Eleanor saw her note had been returned, unsigned. Written at the bottom in neat handwriting was a brief message. "Taking care of it. Please don't remove her hat." During story time, Eleanor chose a book about a turtle who was afraid to come out of his shell. As she read, she noticed Sophie listening intently, absently scratching her head. When Sophie thought no one was looking, she pulled a tissue from her pocket and dabbed beneath her hat, quickly hiding it when she saw Eleanor watching. The tissue had spots of something on it, not blood, but yellowish. Eleanor's concern deepened. At recess, Sophie stayed on the bench instead of playing. "Does your head hurt today?" Eleanor asked gently, sitting beside her. Sophie nodded slightly. Mommy put medicine on it, but it still itches. You know, Eleanor said carefully. Nurse Barbara might have something that could help even more. Sophie shook her head firmly. Mommy says we can't afford the doctor unless it's really bad. She looked up anxiously. It's not really bad, just itchy sometimes. As Sophie rejoined her class, Eleanor remained on the bench, troubled. Whatever was happening went beyond typical childhood lice, but without Sophie's or April's cooperation, her hands were tied by school protocol. For now, the mystery of what lay beneath the purple hat would remain just that, a mystery that Eleanor was increasingly determined to solve. Eleanor found James Mitchell in the school garden during lunch break, carefully tending to the vegetable patch the students had planted last spring. His weathered hands moved with surprising gentleness among the plants. Those tomatoes are coming along nicely, Eleanor commented. Approaching, James straightened up with a smile. Garden's about the only place where problems have simple solutions. Water, sunlight, patience. Plants don't ask for much more. Eleanor sat on a nearby bench. James, you mentioned you knew the Williams family from Pinewood. I'm worried about Sophie. James's expression grew serious. The little one with the purple hat? He set down his gardening tools. What's troubling you? Eleanor described Sophie's increasing discomfort, the scratching, the medicinal smell, and April's cryptic note. Everyone assumes it's just lice, but your teacher instincts say otherwise, James finished. He was quiet for a moment, seemingly wrestling with a decision. Finally, he sighed. I grew up in Pinewood, Eleanor. Not many folks around here know that. Eleanor's surprise must have shown on her face. People judge what they don't. Understand, he continued. My mother raised 3 boys in trailer Narsher 17 after my father left. Worked cleaning houses, then overnight at the gas station. Never missed a school event. Like April Williams seems to be doing for Sophie, Eleanor noted. James nodded. Pinewood's having a rough time. The water system breaks down weekly now. Town council keeps delaying repairs. Says it's the trailer park owner's responsibility. Owner says it's the town's. Meanwhile, families go days without running water. That would explain, Eleanor began. A lot of things, James finished, including why some kids might not be bathed as regularly as others might expect. Not from neglect, but from circumstance. The lunch bell rang, ending their conversation, but Eleanor felt she'd gained an important ally and insight. Back in class, Eleanor observed the children during group work. Lily had steadfastly remained Sophie's friend despite the whispers. Today, they worked together on a math assignment, heads bent close together. My birthday party is Saturday, Lily announced. My mom says I can invite the whole class. We'll have a bouncy castle. The children cheered. Eleanor noticed Sophie's expression, a mixture of excitement and anxiety. You'll come, right, Sophie? Lily asked. I don't know if I can, Sophie replied softly. Why not? Lily persisted. It'll be super fun. Sophie touched her purple hat unconsciously. I just might be busy. Later, as students packed up for a dismissal, Eleanor overheard Trevor telling another boy, My mom says I can't go to Lily's party if the hat girl is there. She might give everyone lice. Eleanor intervened immediately. Trevor, in this classroom we don't spread unkind rumors. Besides, having lice doesn't make anyone a bad person. It can happen to anyone. After the children left, Eleanor stayed behind organizing materials when Barbara appeared at her door. Got a minute? The nurse asked. I've been thinking about your concerns. They sat at Eleanor's desk where Barbara spoke candidly. If it's not lice and the mother's applying some kind of treatment, could be a skin condition, eczema, psoriasis, ringworm. But why the secrecy? Eleanor wondered. And why insist she never remove the hat? Barbara hesitated. Pride, maybe? Shame? Fear of judgment? She tapped her fingers thoughtfully. I have a friend, Dr. Patel, who volunteers at the community clinic once a month. I could ask if April Williams has brought Sophie in. Would that violate confidentiality? I wouldn't ask for details. Just if they've been seen at all, Barbara clarified. Many Pinewood families don't even know the clinic exists. As they discussed possibilities, Principal Douglas appeared. Still here, Eleanor. Dedication. His smile faded when he noticed their serious expressions. Everything all right? Eleanor shared their concerns about Sophie, careful to emphasize they had no concrete evidence of neglect, just worries about undiagnosed medical condition. Douglas frowned. Without parent permission or obvious distress, our hands are tied. School policy is clear. His tone softened slightly. Document your observations. If it escalates, we'll have grounds to intervene. After he left, Barbara squeezed Eleanor's hand. Keep watching her. I'll talk to Dr. Patel. That evening, Eleanor stopped at the local grocery store. As she examined apples, she spotted April Williams at the pharmacy counter, her shoulders tense as she spoke with the pharmacist. Eleanor couldn't hear their conversation, but the pharmacist's headshake and April's slumped posture suggested disappointment. April turned, catching Eleanor's gaze. Recognition flickered in her tired eyes, followed by something like embarrassment. She hurried away before Eleanor could approach. At home, Eleanor researched scalp conditions on her laptop. The images troubled her. So many possibilities, some requiring immediate medical attention. If Sophie was suffering from something serious. Eleanor closed her laptop, determination replacing worry. Tomorrow she would find a way to help Sophie, with or without April's cooperation. The purple hat had protected its secret long enough. Today, we're going to draw our homes and families, Eleanor announced to her class. Think about what makes your home special to you. The children eagerly grabbed crayons, chattering about swimming pools and playrooms. Eleanor moved among them, offering encouragement, but her attention kept returning to Sophie, who worked silently in the corner. Sophie's drawing was remarkably detailed for a 6-year-old. A small blue trailer with careful cross-hatching for the metal siding, a clothes line with tiny shirts and pants, 3 stick figures inside, 1 taller with long hair, 2 smaller with rounded heads. Outside the trailer, Sophie had drawn puddles, large and small, surrounding the home like a moat. Most striking was the 4th figure, drawn far away at the edge of the paper. A tall stick person with no distinguishing features, facing away from the trailer. Can you tell me about your drawing, Sophie? Eleanor asked gently. Sophie pointed to each figure. That's Mommy. That's me with my hat. That's my little brother Max, but he stays with Grandma most days while Mommy works. And this person? Eleanor indicated the distant figure. Sophie's voice grew quieter. That's Daddy, but he doesn't live with us anymore. He went away after the factory closed. I see. And what about these? Eleanor pointed to the puddles. Sometimes the water doesn't work, Sophie explained matter-of-factly. Then we have to use bottles. Mommy says it's like camping. As Sophie continued coloring, Eleanor noticed her wince when she accidentally brushed her head against the bookshelf. Sophie quickly adjusted her purple hat, but not before Eleanor glimpsed her expression. A flash of real pain, not just discomfort. Does your head hurt today? Eleanor asked quietly. Just a little, Sophie whispered. The medicine makes it burn sometimes. Before Eleanor could ask more, Lily bounced over with her drawing, a large 2-story house with a swimming pool and a dog. Sophie, here's my invitation for Saturday. Lily handed Sophie a glittery card. Mom says we can pick you up if you need a ride. Sophie accepted the invitation with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Thank you, she murmured, carefully placing it in her folder. After the children left for music class, Eleanor studied Sophie's drawing again. The careful details revealed so much. The isolation of the trailer, the absent father, the water problems James had mentioned. Barbara entered with her promised update. I spoke with Dr. Patel. She couldn't give specifics, but confirmed the Williams family hasn't been to the community clinic. Not ever? Not in the last year, at least. Barbara hesitated. Many Pinewood residents avoid seeking help until it's an emergency. Pride, fear of judgment, worry about costs. Even our free clinic intimidates some folks. Eleanor sighed. I saw April at the pharmacy last night, but she avoided me. You're the teacher, Barbara pointed out. To struggling parents, teachers can represent authority, someone who might report them if things aren't perfect. Eleanor considered this perspective. So my notes might be making things worse? Maybe try a different approach, Barbara suggested. Build trust first. That afternoon, Eleanor introduced a new classroom activity, the kindness jar. Children could anonymously write down acts of kindness they witnessed, to be read aloud on Fridays. Remember, kindness can be small actions, sharing a pencil, helping someone up if they fall, including someone who feels left out, Eleanor explained. By dismissal, several notes had already been dropped in the jar. Eleanor read them privately after school. Lily shared her cookies with Sophie. Sophie helped Trevor find his lost eraser, even though he wasn't nice to her. The last note, written in careful, childlike printing, read, Ms. Carter notices when I'm sad, even when I try to hide it. Eleanor recognized Sophie's handwriting from her homework. As she gathered her things to leave, James appeared at her door. Thought you might want to know? There's a town council meeting tonight about the Pinewood water situation. Public comments welcome. Will you be there? Eleanor asked. James nodded. Been going for months. They keep promising fixes, but, he shrugged. Might help to have voices from outside Pinewood speaking up too. Eleanor made a quick decision. I'll be there. The town. Hall was crowded that evening. Eleanor spotted April Williams sitting in the back row, looking uncomfortable among the mostly middle-class attendees. When public comments opened, James spoke first, detailing the ongoing water issues at Pinewood with quiet dignity. Several council members looked bored, as if they'd heard it all before. Eleanor stepped up next, introducing herself as a teacher at Maple Creek Elementary. I've noticed students from Pinewood showing signs of distress due to the ongoing infrastructure problems, she stated calmly. Children cannot learn effectively when their basic needs aren't met. This isn't just a Pinewood issue. It's a community failure that affects our school's performance and our children's futures. Several council members sat straighter. The school district was the town's pride. After the meeting, Eleanor approached April, who seemed ready to flee. Ms. Williams? I'm Eleanor Carter, Sophie's teacher. April's expression was guarded. I got your notes. I'm handling Sophie's situation. I believe you, Eleanor assured her. I just want you to know, if Sophie needs anything at all, I'm here to help. No judgment. April's eyes glistened briefly. Thank you, but we're fine, she said firmly, then hurried away. Driving home, Eleanor reflected on the evening. She hadn't broken through April's defenses, but she'd taken the first step. Sometimes trust had to be earned one small gesture at a time. Tomorrow she would try again. Sophie's well-being couldn't wait much longer. Eleanor arrived at school early, determined to speak with Principal Douglas before classes began. She found him in his office reviewing budget reports. Eleanor, good morning. What brings you in so early? His smile faded as he noticed her. Serious expression. It's about Sophie Williams. Eleanor began, placing her documentation folder on his desk. I'm increasingly concerned about her health. The scratching has worsened. She's mentioned pain. And yesterday I noticed what appeared to be medication under her hat. Principal Douglas skimmed her notes with a frown. You've been thorough, I'll give you that. I'd like to request a home visit, Eleanor said, to establish better communication with Ms. Williams and offer support. Douglas leaned back in his chair with a sigh. You know district policy, Eleanor. Home visits require parental consent or evidence of immediate danger. From what you've documented, we have neither. But if we wait until it's an immediate danger, we can't solve every family's problems, Eleanor, Douglas interrupted gently. There are channels for these things. Social services exists for a reason. Social services is overwhelmed, Eleanor countered. James Mitchell attended the town council meeting last night. He's been advocating for Pinewood residents for months without progress. James is a custodian, not an administrator, Douglas said dismissively. Look, I understand your concern, but we have limited resources and hundreds of students. He slid her folder back across the desk. Continue documenting. If Sophie's condition deteriorates significantly, we'll reconsider. Eleanor left feeling frustrated. The system designed to protect children was tangled in red tape and bureaucracy. In the hallway, she encountered Mrs. Peterson gossiping with another teacher. Did you hear? Lily Chen invited the Williams girl to her birthday party, Mrs. Peterson whispered. Patricia Chen called me in a panic, worried about, she mimed, scratching her head. Eleanor cleared her throat loudly. Both teachers startled. Good morning, Eleanor said pointedly. Lovely day for teaching, isn't it? As she walked away, Eleanor heard Mrs. Peterson mutter, always so self-righteous. The morning passed quickly. During math, Eleanor noticed Sophie struggling to concentrate, frequently adjusting her hat and wincing when it shifted. At recess, while other children played, Sophie sat alone on a bench, head bowed. Eleanor approached, sitting beside her. Not feeling like playing today? Sophie shook her head slightly. My head feels hot. Eleanor touched Sophie's forehead gently. You do feel warm. Would you like to see Nurse Barbara? Fear flashed across Sophie's face. No, Mommy says I just need to wait for the medicine to work. What kind of medicine is it, Sophie? Special cream from the store, Sophie replied. And stuff from the internet that Mommy ordered. She puts it on every night and every morning. Eleanor nodded, keeping her expression neutral despite her growing concern. Sophie, sometimes doctors have even better medicine than what we can find in stores. We can't afford doctors, Sophie said simply. Daddy's insurance went away when he left. After recess, Eleanor called the district social services office during her planning period. Maple Creek Elementary, concerns about a student, she explained to the receptionist. Possible untreated medical condition. After being transferred twice, Eleanor finally reached a caseworker named Ms. Winters. I understand your concerns, Ms. Carter, Ms. Winters said after hearing the details, but we're currently handling cases involving immediate physical danger. A scalp condition, while concerning, isn't prioritized unless it's severely impacting the child's health. How severe does it need to be? Eleanor asked, frustration evident in her voice. I'll make a note in the system, Ms. Winters offered. If the family reaches out to us directly, we can expedite services. And if they don't reach out? Then we process cases in order of severity. Ms. Winters explained apologetically. I wish I had better news, but we're managing triple our recommended caseload with half the staff we need. After hanging up, Eleanor sought out Barbara, who was treating a kindergartner's skinned knee. District social services is a dead end, Eleanor explained. Once they had privacy. They're overwhelmed, Barbara nodded grimly. Not surprised. Dr. Patel says the same about the community clinic. She hesitated. There is one other option. The mobile health unit visits the community center monthly. It's happening this Saturday. No appointments needed. Services on a sliding scale. This Saturday is Lily's birthday party, Eleanor realized. Sophie's been invited. Perfect opportunity, Barbara suggested. If Sophie attends the party, maybe April will have a few hours free to visit the health unit. If I could just talk to April directly, Eleanor mused. That afternoon, Sophie was absent. Eleanor felt a spike of worry. Was Sophie's condition worsening? As the final bell rang, she made a decision. After school, Eleanor drove to Pinewood Trailer Park. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows between the trailers. Many showed signs of careful maintenance despite limited resources. Potted flowers, wind chimes, children's toys neatly stored. Eleanor located the blue trailer from Sophie's drawing. A faded welcome mat sat at the metal steps. She took a deep breath and knocked. No answer. She was about to leave when a neighbor emerged from the next trailer, an elderly woman with sharp eyes and a suspicious expression. She's not home, the woman called. Works at the diner until 5, then cleans offices until 10. I'm Sophie's teacher, Eleanor explained. I'm concerned about her. She wasn't in school today. The woman's expression softened slightly. April's doing her best with those kids. Had to take Sophie to the emergency clinic this morning. Infection got worse. Eleanor's heart sank. Which clinic? Is Sophie all right? County General Urgent Care, the woman replied. That's all I know. She hesitated, then added, April's a good mother. Just dealt a bad hand. Eleanor thanked her and returned to her car. County General was 30 minutes away. As she started the engine, Eleanor weighed her options. Showing up at the clinic might seem intrusive, even threatening to April. Instead, she drove to the diner mentioned by the neighbor. Perhaps there, in a public setting, April might be more willing to talk. The barrier between Sophie and the help she needed was crumbling, one small piece at a time. Sunshine Diner sat at the edge of town, its neon sign flickering against the darkening sky. Eleanor hesitated in her car, questioning her decision. Would approaching April at work seem invasive? But concern for Sophie outweighed her doubts. Inside, the diner hummed with early dinner patrons. Eleanor scanned the room, spotting April instantly. Her blonde hair pulled back in a tight ponytail, dark. Circles under her eyes as she balanced 3 plates along her arm. Eleanor chose a booth in April's section and waited. When April approached with a coffee pot, her step faltered as she recognized Eleanor. Ms. Carter? Surprise and wariness mingled in her voice. Hello, April. I hope you don't mind. Me stopping by, Eleanor said gently. Your neighbor mentioned Sophie wasn't feeling well today. April's professional smile remained fixed, but her knuckles whitened around the coffee pot. She's fine, just a bad morning. My mother's watching her. I've been concerned, Eleanor continued, keeping her voice low. Sophie seems uncomfortable in class, and yesterday she mentioned pain. April poured coffee with a slightly trembling hand. I'm handling it. We don't need... I'm not here to judge or report anything, Eleanor interrupted softly. I'm here because I care about Sophie, and I think you're doing everything you can for her. April's mask of composure cracked slightly. Ready to order? She asked, ignoring Eleanor's comment. Just coffee for now. Eleanor watched April hurry to another table, clearly rattled by the encounter. 20 minutes later, during a lull, April returned. To Eleanor's surprise, she slid into the opposite seat, her expression a mixture of exhaustion and defeat. My break's 5 minutes, April said quietly. Say what you need to say. Eleanor leaned forward. Barbara, our school nurse, told me about the mobile health unit visiting the community center. This Saturday, they offer care on a sliding scale, even free services depending on need. April's laugh was hollow. You think I don't know about that? I've taken Sophie to 5 different clinics, spent money we don't have on creams and shampoos and antibiotics. She rubbed her temples. Every doctor has a different opinion. None of the treatments work for long. What do they say it is? Eleanor asked carefully. April hesitated. Started as ringworm, they think. Then it got infected. Now they're saying it's something called folliculitis, maybe impetigo too. Her voice caught. This morning, the urgent care doctor said she needs to see a dermatologist, but our insurance application is still processing, and the specialist wants $800 up front. Eleanor absorbed this information. Has anyone suggested removing her hair to treat it more effectively? That was the first thing they tried, April whispered. That's why she wears the hat. The kids at her last school. She didn't finish the sentence, but Eleanor understood. Children could be unintentionally cruel. Listen, April continued, checking her watch. Sophie's been through enough. She's smart, kind, wants so badly to fit in. This thing with her head, it's temporary. We just need the right treatment. Let me help, Eleanor urged. The school has emergency funds, resources. We don't take charity. April cut in sharply, then softened. I appreciate your concern, but we'll manage. Sophie will. Sophie. Be back tomorrow. As April stood to return to work, Eleanor made a quick decision. Lily Chen invited Sophie to her birthday party this Saturday. Sophie really wants to go, but she's worried about her hat. April's expression clouded. She mentioned it. I told her maybe next time. Lily doesn't care about the hat, Eleanor pressed. She genuinely likes Sophie, and it would give Sophie something normal, something fun amid all this. April seemed to waver. I don't know. I could pick her up, Eleanor offered. That way you could have a few hours to yourself. Maybe even visit that mobile health unit without Sophie worrying. Something shifted in April's eyes. Not quite trust, but a tentative opening. I'll think about it, she conceded before hurrying back to work. The next morning, Sophie returned to class wearing her purple hat. But something was different. She seemed brighter. Somehow, more present. During morning circle, she even volunteered to lead the calendar activity. At recess, Eleanor found Lily and Sophie sitting together under a tree, deep in conversation. Miss Carter, Lily called excitedly. Sophie's coming to my party. Her mom said yes this morning. Sophie nodded, her eyes shining with excitement despite the visible fatigue on her face. Mom says you're going to pick me up, she told Eleanor. Is that really okay? I'm looking forward to it, Eleanor assured her. Throughout the day, Eleanor noticed Sophie scratching less, though occasionally she would wince and touch her hat gently. Whatever treatment April had obtained from the urgent care seemed to be providing some relief. During story time, Sophie sat closer to the other children than usual. Eleanor chose a book about a hedgehog who was afraid to show his spines, but learned that what made him different also made him special. As she read, she noticed Sophie listening intently, her small fingers occasionally touching the edge of her purple hat. When the story ended, Sophie raised her hand, something she rarely did. Ms. Carter, is it okay to be different? The classroom grew quiet. Eleanor considered her answer carefully. Not only is it okay to be different, Sophie, but each person's differences make them unique and valuable. Sophie nodded thoughtfully. Even if other people don't understand? Especially then, Eleanor replied, meeting Sophie's eyes with a gentle smile. Sometimes the things people don't understand about us are the most important parts. After school, as children gathered their belongings, Eleanor found a folded paper on her desk, a drawing of two figures holding hands. One was clearly Sophie with her purple hat. The other was taller, with curly hair like Eleanor's. At the bottom, in careful printing, "Thank you for being nice about my hat." Eleanor carefully placed the drawing in her folder. The first real breakthrough had come, not in solving the mystery of Sophie's condition, but in building the trust needed to help her. Saturday's birthday party, and Eleanor's chance to drive Sophie, now seemed like an opportunity for much more than celebration. News about Sophie attending Lily's birthday party spread quickly through Maple Creek Elementary's parent network. By Friday morning, Eleanor had received 3 concerned emails from parents, all circling the same topic. Was it appropriate for Sophie to attend given her condition? During her planning period, Eleanor found herself summoned to Principal Douglas's office. Patricia Chen, Lily's mother, sat primly in one of the visitor chairs. Eleanor, Mrs. Chen has some concerns about tomorrow's party, Principal Douglas began, his expression carefully neutral. Patricia Chen adjusted her designer handbag. I understand you're driving the Williams girl to Lily's party? Sophie, Eleanor corrected gently. Yes, I offered to help with transportation. The thing. Good morning, Patricia continued. Several parents have expressed concerns about possible contagion. Eleanor maintained her professional composure despite her rising frustration. Sophie's condition is not contagious according to medical professionals. It's a skin irritation that's being treated. But the hat, Patricia pressed. If she's wearing it to hide something serious, the hat protects a sensitive area that's healing, Eleanor explained, choosing her words carefully. Sophie is understandably self-conscious about it. Principal Douglas cleared his throat. Perhaps a doctor's note. Confirming it's not contagious would help ease parents' minds? Eleanor turned to him, disbelief evident in her expression. Are we really asking a 6-year-old child to provide medical documentation to attend a birthday party? Patricia had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. I just want all the children to be safe. Lily adores Sophie, but as a mother, I need to consider everyone. Eleanor took a deep breath. I understand your concern, but I can assure you Sophie poses no health risk. In fact, excluding her could cause significant emotional harm at a time when she's already vulnerable. The meeting ended with Patricia reluctantly agreeing Sophie could attend, though her discomfort remained evident. As Eleanor left the office, she spotted James in the hallway, likely having overheard the conversation. Remarkable how some folks can make a child suffering all about themselves, he commented quietly. Eleanor sighed. Sophie's so excited about this party. I can't bear the thought of her being disappointed. James considered this. You know, I ran into April at the laundromat last night. She mentioned Sophie talking non-stop about this party. He hesitated. April seemed different, less guarded. Mentioned she might check out that mobile health unit while Sophie's at the party. That's progress, Eleanor noted with cautious optimism. Progress indeed, James agreed, though getting help in Maple Creek isn't always straightforward when you're from Pinewood. What do you mean? James's expression darkened. Let's just say Patricia Chen isn't the only one in town who treats Pinewood folks like we're carrying the plague. His use of we didn't escape Eleanor's notice. You still consider yourself part of the Pinewood community. Always will. B, James confirmed. Those are my people. April Williams was a few years behind me in school. Brilliant student. Had a scholarship to state before. He trailed off, seeming to catch himself. Well, life happens. What changed her path? Eleanor asked. James shook his head. Not my story to tell, but I will say this. April's got more strength than folks give her credit for, so does Sophie. That afternoon in class, Eleanor watched Sophie and Lily giggling together over a shared book. The contrast between the two girls was striking. Lily in her pristine designer clothes, Sophie in her carefully mended sweater and ever-present purple hat. Yet their friendship seemed completely unaffected by these external differences. During art time, the class created birthday cards for an upcoming celebration. Sophie worked diligently on hers, adding careful details with colored pencils. Is that for Lily? Eleanor asked, noticing the beautiful flower pattern Sophie was creating. Sophie nodded. It's a special card. Lily says her family puts cards on the refrigerator with magnets. I want hers to be pretty enough to keep forever. The simple statement revealed so much about Sophie's understanding of difference, how some children had refrigerators covered with artwork, while others might not even have consistent electricity. At dismissal time, Barbara stopped by Eleanor's classroom. How did the meeting with Mrs. Chen go? The teacher's lounge is buzzing. Eleanor rolled her about as well as you'd expect. Sophie can attend the party, but Patricia made her discomfort clear. Some people, Barbara muttered. Oh, I meant to tell you. That mobile health unit tomorrow? Dr. Patel will be there. I mentioned April and Sophie to her. She'll keep an eye out. Thank you, Eleanor said gratefully. Though I'm not sure April will actually go. Baby steps, Barbara reminded her. As children gathered their belongings, Eleanor overheard Trevor telling another boy, My mom says I have to leave the party if the hat girl is still there after cake. Before Eleanor could intervene, Lily stepped forward, hands on her hips. Her name is Sophie, not Hat Girl. And it's my party, so I get to invite my real friends. Trevor looked taken aback by the normally quiet Lily's fierce response. Well said, Lily, Eleanor commented, approaching the group. True friendship means standing up for each other. After the children left, Eleanor prepared for tomorrow. She'd pick up Sophie at 1 p.m., drive her to the party at 1:30, then perhaps find a way to check if April had indeed visited the mobile health unit. As she gathered her materials, a notification appeared on her phone. An email from April Williams. Miss Carter, Sophie is looking forward to tomorrow. Thank you for offering to drive her. She'll be ready at 1 dry. I've attached the doctor's note from urgent care confirming her condition isn't contagious, in case anyone asks. April Williams. The attachment, the QI, was a medical form stating Sophie had a localized scalp infection being treated with antibiotics, not contagious through casual contact. The fact that April had anticipated the potential issue and addressed it proactively spoke volumes about her awareness of how others perceived her family. Eleanor sent a quick reply, "Thank you, April. I'm looking forward to tomorrow too. Sophie will have a wonderful time at the party." Gunner. As she drove home, Eleanor felt a mixture of hope and apprehension. Tomorrow represented a pivotal moment, not just for Sophie's social integration, but potentially for April's willingness to accept help. The community might be divided in its response to the Williams family, but Eleanor was increasingly certain which side of that divide she stood on. Saturday arrived with perfect birthday party weather, sunshine, blue skies, and a gentle breeze. Eleanor checked her appearance one last time before heading to Pinewood Trailer Park. She had deliberately chosen casual clothes, not wanting to make Sophie or April feel uncomfortable. Pinewood looked different in daylight. What had seemed shabby in the evening gloom now revealed signs of a community, making the best of difficult circumstances. Several trailers had small vegetable gardens. Children's bicycles leaned against railings. A group of residents had gathered near the community mailboxes, chatting amicably. Eleanor found the blue trailer easily. Before she could knock, the door opened, revealing Sophie in a clean dress Eleanor hadn't seen before. Her purple hat adorned with a small fabric flower that matched her outfit. The excitement on her face was palpable. "Miss Carter, you came," Sophie exclaimed as if she hadn't quite believed it would happen. "Of course I did," Eleanor smiled. "You look beautiful, Sophie. I love the flower on your hat." "Mom made it last night," Sophie explained proudly. She stayed up really late sewing it on. April appeared behind Sophie, looking tired but composed. She wore a uniform with Sunshine Diner embroidered on the pocket, clearly eyes. Headed to work after Sophie's departure. "Thank you again for driving her," April said, handing Eleanor a small wrapped package. "It's not much, but Sophie wanted to bring a gift." Eleanor noticed the careful wrapping, pages from a magazine, beautifully arranged and secured with colorful yarn. Instead of ribbon, creative solutions born of necessity. "I'm sure Lily will love it," Eleanor assured them. "We should head out. The party starts at 1:30. "Sophie knows to keep her hat on," April said quietly, adjusting the purple hat gently. "The medicine makes her scalp sensitive to sunlight." "I'll make sure she's comfortable," Eleanor promised. As Sophie climbed into Eleanor's car, April leaned closer to Eleanor. "The mobile clinic you mentioned. What time does it close today?" 5 o'clock, Eleanor replied, trying to contain her hopefulness. "Dr. Patel is there, Barbara. From school says she's excellent." April nodded, her expression unreadable. "Have fun, sweetheart," she called to Sophie. "I'll pick you up at 4 from Lily's house. Ms. Carter has the address for me." As they drove away, Eleanor glanced in the rearview mirror to see April watching them. A solitary figure framed by the blue trailer. "Are you excited about the party?" Eleanor asked. Sophie nodded enthusiastically. "I've never been to a birthday party before, not a friend party." "Never?" Eleanor asked, surprised. "We moved a lot," Sophie explained simply. "And before," she touched her hat, unconsciously. "Before this I had pretty hair, long like Mommy's used to be." Eleanor's heart ached at the matter-of-fact way Sophie referenced her loss. "Hair grows back," she said gently. "And true friends like Lily care about who you are, not what you look like." Sophie considered this. "Mommy cut her hair too, you know. She used to have hair all the way down her back. She cut it off to sell it when Daddy left and we needed money for the trailer." Eleanor nearly missed a stop sign, startled by this revelation. "Your mom sold her hair?" Sophie nodded. "She said it was just hair and we needed a home more. That's why I try not to be sad about my hair. If Mommy could be brave, I can too. The simple statement offered Eleanor another glimpse into April's character, and the sacrifices she'd made for her children that weren't visible to those who judged her. As they approached the Chen residence, an impressive two-story home in Maple Creek's most affluent neighborhood, Sophie grew quieter. "Lily's house is really big," she whispered, eyes wide. "It is," Eleanor agreed. "But you know what? Houses come in all shapes and sizes, just like people. What matters is how people treat each other inside those houses." Sophie seemed to relax slightly at this. "Lily is nice to everyone. That's why she's my friend." The front yard of the Chen home had been transformed into a child's paradise. A bounce house dominated one side, while tables decorated with colorful balloons lined the other. Several children were already playing under the supervision of what appeared to be hired entertainment staff. Patricia Chen greeted them at the driveway, her smile tightening almost imperceptibly when she saw Sophie's hat. "Welcome. Lily's been watching for you." As if summoned, Lily came, running across the lawn. "Sophie, you came!" She grabbed Sophie's hand. "Come see the bounce house. Mom said we can take our shoes off and jump." Sophie hesitated, looking at Eleanor. "It's okay," Eleanor assured her. "Just be careful of your hat." "I'll help her," Lily promised, already pulling Sophie toward the bounce house. Patricia turned to Eleanor with a forced smile. "Well, crisis averted. The doctor's note you forwarded was reassuring." Eleanor chose not to engage with the implied criticism. "It's a lovely party. Thank you for including Sophie." "Lily insisted," Patricia replied, her tone suggesting this explained everything. "Apparently, Sophie helps her with math and reading. Lily's always had a soft spot for underdogs." Before Eleanor could respond, another parent approached Patricia with a question about allergies and cake ingredients. Eleanor used the opportunity to observe Sophie, who stood hesitantly at the bounce house entrance while other children jumped inside. Lily emerged, slightly breathless. "It's okay, Sophie. I'll hold your hat while you jump." Sophie shook her head, touching her hat protectively. "I can't take it off. Mom says it needs to stay on." For a moment, Eleanor feared Sophie would be excluded from yet another normal childhood activity. Then Lily shrugged. "That's okay. We can do something else. There's face painting." As the girls ran toward the face painting station, Eleanor felt a surge of gratitude for Lily's natural kindness. Children often had an innate capacity for acceptance that adults had somehow lost. Eleanor checked her watch. It was just past 2. If April was considering visiting the mobile clinic, she'd have 3 hours before needing to pick up Sophie. Eleanor silently hoped April would take this opportunity. Not just for Sophie's sake, but for her own. The party continued with games, face painting, and eventually cake. Eleanor kept a watchful eye on Sophie, who gradually relaxed and began participating more freely, though she still touched her hat frequently to ensure it remained secure. Throughout the afternoon, Eleanor noticed other parents watching Sophie with expressions ranging from sympathy to poorly disguised discomfort. The community's division was evident even here, in this celebration of childhood joy. As 4 o'clock approached, Eleanor saw a now familiar compact car pull into the Aziuia driveway. April had arrived to pick up Sophie, right on time despite her work schedule. What Eleanor didn't expect was the subtle change in April's demeanor, a certain squaring of the shoulders, a new determination in her eyes that hadn't been there before. Something had happened during those 3 hours. Eleanor hoped it was something that would help Sophie finally heal. April Williams stood awkwardly at the edge of the Chen's manicured lawn, her diner uniform a stark contrast to the casual designer wear of the other parents. She watched Sophie chatting animatedly with Lily by the remnants of the birthday cake, a small smile playing on her lips despite her obvious discomfort. Eleanor approached her, noticing something different about April, a paper bag from the community health clinic partially visible in her purse. "You went," Eleanor said quietly. April nodded, her eyes never leaving. "Sophie, Dr. Patel was kind, not like some of the others." She inhaled deeply. She took one look at the photos on my phone and said Sophie needs treatment we can't afford. But she's arranged something. Before Eleanor could respond, Sophie spotted her mother and came running over, face painted, with a rainbow butterfly design that carefully avoided her hat. "Mom, I had cake and ice cream and Lily loved my present," Sophie exclaimed. "And nobody said anything about my hat, not even once." April knelt down, straightening Sophie's dress. "That's wonderful, sweetheart. Did you thank Ms. Chen for inviting you?" Sophie nodded solemnly. "And I thanked Ms. Carter for driving me. Can I say goodbye to Lily before we go?" As Sophie ran back to her friend, April turned to Eleanor. "Could we talk?" "Not here. Maybe after my shift ends tonight?" Eleanor nodded, surprised by the request. "Of course, just tell me when and where." "The diner closes at 9. I finish cleaning by 9:30. April hesitated. "I don't usually do this. Ask for help, I mean." "I'll be there," Eleanor promised. Patricia Chen approached, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "April, so nice to meet you." "Finally, Sophie is such a unique child." Eleanor watched April's expression carefully reset into polite neutrality. "Thank you for including her. She's been talking about this party all week." "Of course," Patricia said smoothly. "Lily adores her, though I was a bit concerned about the health situation." April stiffened. "As the doctor's note explained, Sophie's condition isn't contagious. Yes, but children can be so physical, touching everything, sharing food." Patricia trailed off, her implication clear. Eleanor was about to intervene when April spoke, her voice quiet but firm. "My daughter has an infection caused by poor water quality in our trailer park. She's on antibiotics and medicated shampoo. She wears the hat because her hair had to be shaved to treat her scalp properly, and children at her last school bullied her mercilessly for it." April's voice trembled slightly. "Sophie washes her hands before eating, doesn't share brushes or hats, and has better manners than most adults I know. She deserves a birthday party without being treated like she's carrying the plague." Patricia had the grace to look embarrassed. "I didn't mean to suggest—" "You did," April interrupted gently. "But it's okay. You're protecting your child. I'm protecting mine." She called to Sophie. "Time to go, sweetheart." Sophie came running, clutching a small party favor bag. She hugged Lily goodbye, then took her mother's hand. As they walked to their car, Eleanor heard Sophie ask, "Was it okay that I came, Mommy?" "It was perfect," April replied, her voice steady despite the moisture in her eyes. "You deserve every happiness, just like any other child." Eleanor watched them drive away, moved by April's quiet dignity in the face of Patricia's thinly veiled prejudice. Whatever April wanted to discuss that evening suddenly felt urgently important. The struggle of this mother to protect her child's physical and emotional well-being, despite poverty, despite judgment, despite a system that seemed designed to make everything harder, was a kind of strength Eleanor was only beginning to fully comprehend. Sunshine Diner was nearly empty when Eleanor arrived at 9:25 p.m. A single elderly customer nursed a cup of coffee in the corner booth while April wiped down the counter, her movements efficient but weary. "Almost done," April said when she spotted Eleanor. "Coffee?" Eleanor nodded, settling into a booth near the back. The fluorescent lights highlighted the exhaustion on April's face, the slight tremor in her hands as she poured 2 cups and slid into the seat opposite Eleanor. "Sophie's with my mother tonight," April explained, answering the unasked question. "She loves Grandma's sleepovers, though Mom's place is just a 1-bedroom apartment. She seemed to have a wonderful time at the party," Eleanor offered. April smiled faintly. "She hasn't stopped talking about it. That Lily is a special kid." "Like Sophie," Eleanor agreed. April's smile faded as she pulled a folder from her bag, medical paperwork with official stamps and letterheads. Dr. Patel took one look at Sophie's scalp condition and knew exactly what it was. She slid a pamphlet across the table. "Severe folliculitis complicated by impetigo. Basically an infection that started small but got worse because," she faltered, "because of the water situation at Pinewood. Eleanor finished gently. April nodded, her composure cracking slightly. We had 3 water outages last month, sometimes for days. I boiled bottled water for washing, used medicated wipes, tried everything. The pharmacist recommended. She rubbed her temples. It started as just a small patch. I thought it was ringworm from the school playground. By the time I realized it was getting worse instead of better. You did everything you could, Eleanor reassured her. Did I? April's voice was barely audible. A good mother would have found a way to get proper medical care before it got this bad. A good mother, Eleanor said firmly, is one who works multiple jobs to keep a roof over her children's heads, who makes sure her daughter still attends school despite painful medical issues, who sews flowers onto hats to make her child feel special instead of different. She reached across the table, covering April's hand with her own. You are a good mother, April. April's eyes filled with tears she stubbornly refused to shed. Dr. Patel says Sophie needs specialized treatment, daily medicated. Shampoo treatments, prescription antibiotic ointment, oral antibiotics, and regular monitoring by a dermatologist. That sounds promising, Eleanor said, trying to sound encouraging. It's also impossible, April replied, sliding another paper forward. A treatment cost estimate. The total made Eleanor wince. Our insurance application is still processing. The state children's health program has a 3-month waiting period. Dr. Patel tried to get Sophie classified as an emergency case, but apparently severe scalp infections don't qualify unless there's risk of sepsis. Eleanor felt a familiar frustration with a system that seemed designed to help only after a crisis became catastrophic. There must be options. There are, April confirmed, her expression shifting from despair to cautious determination. Dr. Patel pulled some strings. There's a clinical trial at the university. Hospital for pediatric skin infections. All treatments would be covered, but she hesitated. We'd need to go there 3 times a week for the first month. That's a 60-mile round trip. With gas prices, my car barely running, and my work schedule. What about transportation assistance? Programs? Eleanor suggested. April's bitter laugh held no humor. I've spent hours on the phone this week. Medicaid transportation requires approved Medicaid, which we don't have yet. The Community Action Agency's emergency transport is only for life-threatening situations. The hospital volunteer. Drivers are booked solid for cancer patients. She sighed deeply. Every solution has a prerequisite we don't meet. Eleanor thought for a moment. What if I drove Sophie sometimes? I could take her after school for some appointments. April looked startled. You do that? You barely know us. I know enough, Eleanor said simply. And I'm not the only one who would help. Barbara, James, others at school. If we coordinated efforts. Why? April asked, genuine confusion in her voice. Why would strangers go out of their way for us? Eleanor considered her answer carefully. Because sometimes the system fails people who are doing everything right. Because Sophie deserves to get better. And because a community should act like one, helping each other through hard times. For the first time, Eleanor saw hope replace resignation in April's eyes. I can't pay you back, April warned. You don't need to, Eleanor assured her. But there is one condition. April tensed. What's that? You let us help without feeling like it diminishes you, Eleanor said gently. Accepting help when it's needed isn't weakness. It's wisdom. Something shifted in April's posture. A slight releasing of the burden she'd been carrying alone for so long. I can try, she whispered. As they finalized plans for Sophie's first appointment, Eleanor realized they were building something beyond a treatment schedule. They were creating a bridge over the gaps in a flawed system, one that might just be strong enough to support a little girl in a purple hat and her struggling mother. Monday morning arrived with dark clouds and a steady drizzle. Eleanor watched her students file in, shaking off umbrellas and rain jackets. Sophie entered last, her purple hat darkened with raindrops, her shoulders hunched against what seemed to be more than just the weather. "Good morning, Sophie," Eleanor greeted her warmly. "How are you feeling today?" Sophie attempted a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Okay," she whispered, but Eleanor noticed her fingers trembling as she hung up her damp backpack. Throughout morning lessons, Sophie grew increasingly restless. She shifted in her seat constantly, her hand repeatedly moving to adjust her hat. When asked to read aloud, her voice was strained, lacking its usual enthusiasm. During math time, Eleanor noticed Sophie wasn't writing anything on her worksheet. Instead, she sat motionless, staring at the paper while tears silently gathered in her eyes. Eleanor knelt beside her desk. "Sophie, what's wrong, sweetheart?" "It hurts," Sophie whispered, her voice barely audible. "I tried to be brave like Mommy said, but it hurts so much today." Eleanor felt a chill of concern. "Your head?" Sophie nodded slightly, a single tear escaping down her cheek. "The rain made my hat wet on the way to school. Mommy couldn't drive me because our car wouldn't start again." Eleanor quickly assessed the situation. "Would you like to rest in the quiet corner for a bit? I have a special project you could work on there." Sophie nodded gratefully, following Eleanor to the reading nook where soft pillows and a small lamp created a peaceful retreat from the classroom bustle. Eleanor provided her with colored pencils and paper, then returned to help the other students with their math problems. Every few minutes, Eleanor glanced toward Sophie, who had barely touched the art supplies. Instead, she sat motionless, occasionally reaching up to touch her hat with a wince. When the children transitioned to reading time, Eleanor asked Lily to lead the group while she checked on Sophie. "Sophie?" Eleanor approached gently. "Is the pain getting any better?" Sophie looked up, her blue eyes bright with fever. "I don't feel good, Ms. Carter," she admitted, her lower lip trembling. "My head feels hot and the medicine isn't working anymore." Eleanor touched Sophie's forehead, alarmed by the heat radiating from her skin. "I think we should visit Nurse Barbara. Would that be okay?" Fear flashed across Sophie's face. "But my hat will stay right where it is," Eleanor assured her. "Barbara just needs to check your temperature." Sophie reluctantly agreed, standing on unsteady legs. As they walked toward the door, Sophie suddenly stumbled, grabbing the bookshelf for support. The movement dislodged her hat slightly, and she let out a small cry of pain. "It's stuck," Sophie whimpered, reaching for her hat. "The medicine got sticky and now my hat is stuck to my head." Several children turned to look. Trevor whispered something to another boy who giggled. "What's wrong with Hat Girl?" Trevor asked loudly. Something in Sophie seemed to break at that moment, all the weeks of pain, secrecy, and shame culminating in this cruel nickname. Tears streamed down her face as she reached up with trembling hands and pulled off her purple hat herself. The classroom fell silent. Sophie stood in the center of the room, her exposed scalp revealing the full extent of her suffering. Patches of inflamed skin, areas where her blonde hair had been shaved. To apply medication, small crusted areas where infection had taken hold. It wasn't dramatically gruesome, but on the head of a small 6-year-old girl, it told a story of prolonged pain and inadequate treatment. "This is why I wear my hat," Sophie said, her voice shaking but clear. "It's not because I want to. It's because I have to." Eleanor moved quickly to Sophie's side, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Sophie is dealing with an infection that makes her scalp hurt," she explained to the wide-eyed class. "It's being treated by doctors, and it's not contagious." Lily stood up from her desk. "I think you're brave," she told Sophie firmly. "Really, really brave." Sophie's expression crumpled. "I don't feel brave," she whispered, swaying slightly. "I feel sick." Eleanor barely caught her as Sophie's knees buckled. The little girl's eyes fluttered closed as fever overwhelmed her. Small body. "Lily, run to Nurse Barbara's office. Tell her I need her immediately," Eleanor instructed, lifting Sophie into her arms. "Everyone else continue reading quietly." As Eleanor carried Sophie to the small couch in the reading corner, she knew they had reached a breaking point. The little Girl's condition had deteriorated beyond what home remedies and over-the-counter medications could address. The infection had clearly worsened, likely exacerbated by the damp weather and stress. The secret of the purple hat was finally exposed, not just to Eleanor, but to the entire class. What would happen next would determine not only Sophie's physical recovery, but also how she would heal emotionally from this moment of vulnerable exposure. Sophie's breathing came in short, feverish gasps as Eleanor gently stroked her arm, waiting for Barbara to arrive. The time for half measures and system navigation had passed. Sophie needed help now. Barbara burst into the classroom, medical bag in hand. One look at Sophie's flushed face and exposed scalp told her everything she needed to know. "How long has she been like this?" Barbara asked, pressing a thermometer to Sophie's forehead. "She was uncomfortable all morning, then collapsed just now," Eleanor explained, keeping her voice calm despite the fear gripping her heart. The thermometer beeped. 102.4, Barbara announced grimly. "The infection has worsened. We need to call 911. As Barbara made the call, Eleanor noticed the classroom had gone eerily quiet. 20 pairs of young eyes watched with concern and confusion. "Children," Eleanor addressed them gently. "Sophie is very sick and needs special medicine. Doctors are coming to help her. I need everyone to line up quietly and go with Mrs. Peterson next door until I return." The students complied without argument, even Trevor looking subdued as they filed out. Lily lingered last, her eyes fixed on Sophie. "Will she be okay?" Lily whispered. "We're getting her help," Eleanor assured her. "That's what matters now." Principal Douglas appeared in the doorway. "Ambulance is 3 minutes out. I've called April Williams at work." The mention of April sent a wave of dread through Eleanor. How would the young mother react to this emergency? To the knowledge that her daughter had exposed her condition to the entire class? Paramedics arrived with efficient urgency. They assessed Sophie quickly, their gentle hands belying the seriousness of their expressions. "Scalp infection with possible systemic involvement," one paramedic noted. "Fever, dehydration. We'll transport her to County General." As they transferred Sophie to a stretcher, her eyes fluttered open. "My hat," she murmured weakly. "Where's my hat?" Eleanor retrieved the purple hat from the floor. "It's right here, sweetheart." "Can't wear it," Sophie whispered. "Hurts too much." "That's okay," Eleanor soothed. "The doctors will help with the pain." As the paramedics wheeled Sophie toward the exit, April burst through the doors, her diner uniform rumpled, her face a mask of panic. "Sophie!" she cried, rushing to her daughter's side. "Ma'am, are you the mother?" a paramedic asked. April nodded, grasping Sophie's small hand. "What happened? Is she—" "Possible complication from the scalp infection," the paramedic explained. "She needs IV antibiotics right away. You can ride with us." April looked around wildly, taking in the classroom, Eleanor, Barbara, the curious faces peering from neighboring rooms. "Everyone knows now," she whispered, her voice breaking. "And everyone wants to help," Eleanor assured her, pressing the car keys into April's hand. "I'll follow you to the hospital." As the ambulance departed, Eleanor caught sight of Ms. Winters from social services arriving in the school parking lot. Barbara had clearly made more calls than just 911, the FOUR system that had failed Sophie for weeks was finally mobilizing in full force, but only because the situation had become an emergency. Eleanor could only hope it wasn't too late to make a difference. 3 days passed before Sophie returned to school. 3 days of whispered conversations in the teacher's lounge, concerned phone calls from parents, and a classroom that felt incomplete without its quietest member. Eleanor used the time to help her students process what they had witnessed. They created get-well cards, asked thoughtful questions, and learned about the importance of looking beyond appearances. Even Trevor, chastened by the gravity of Sophie's collapse, contributed a carefully drawn card featuring a purple hat surrounded by hearts. On Thursday morning, Eleanor received a text message from April. "Coming back today. No hat. Doctor's orders. She's nervous." Eleanor gathered her class before the morning bell. "Sophie is returning today," she announced. "Her head is still healing, and she won't be wearing her hat. The doctors say her scalp needs air to heal properly." "Will she look different?" a child asked tentatively. "Yes," Eleanor answered honestly. "Parts of her head are still recovering. But remember, differences on the outside don't change who someone is on the inside." When Sophie entered the classroom, the transformation was striking. Without the purple hat, her blonde hair was visible in uneven patches where it had begun to regrow. Other areas remained carefully treated with medicated ointment. But most remarkable was Sophie herself, standing straighter, her eyes clear and bright without the fever that had clouded them for weeks. "Welcome back, Sophie," Eleanor said warmly. For a moment the classroom was silent. Then Lily stood up and walked to Sophie's side. "I like your hair," she said simply. "It looks like a cool pattern." Sophie's tentative smile bloomed into something genuine. "The doctor says it'll grow back evenly soon. I have to put this special medicine on it twice a day." "Can I see how it works?" Lily asked, as if requesting to view something fascinating rather than medical. "Maybe," Sophie replied, her confidence growing as she walked to her desk without the burden of secrecy weighing her down. During recess, Eleanor found April waiting in the school parking lot, watching the playground from a distance. "How is she doing?" April asked anxiously. "See for yourself." Eleanor pointed to where Sophie was playing tag with several classmates, laughing as she ran across the field. "The children have been remarkably accepting." April's eyes filled with tears. The hospital administrator came to Sophie's room. "Yesterday," said an anonymous donor covered all expenses not included in the clinical trial. "That's wonderful," Eleanor said, genuinely surprised. "It was James Mitchell, wasn't it?" April asked quietly. "The donation?" Eleanor shook her head. "I don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me. The water main at Pinewood was fixed yesterday too," April continued. "After 3 years of complaints, suddenly it's an urgent priority." She gave Eleanor a knowing look. "The mayor's wife was visiting Sophie when the council made that decision, right after you left with those photos of our bathroom sink." Eleanor smiled innocently. What a fortunate coincidence. As they watched Sophie play, April's expression grew serious. "Ms. Winters from Social Services has been helping us navigate the system. Sophie's now enrolled in the state children's health program through an emergency exception. My younger son is starting Head Start next week." She paused. "I've also been offered a job training program at the hospital. Better hours, better pay, benefits after 90 days. "April, that's amazing. It shouldn't have taken my daughter collapsing at school to make these resources available," April said. Softly, "There are dozens of families at Pinewood facing similar struggles." Eleanor nodded thoughtfully. "Perhaps that's the next challenge then." The school bell rang, signaling the end of recess. As children lined up to return to class, Eleanor watched Sophie take her place beside Lily, her head uncovered in the sunshine, no longer hiding. A small but significant healing had begun, not just for Sophie's scalp, but for a community that had finally opened its eyes to the invisible struggles happening within its borders. The secret of the purple hat had been revealed, but in its place, something far more powerful was emerging: awareness, compassion, and the first tentative steps toward real change. 3 months later, on the last day of school, Eleanor watched her students file in for their final morning together. Her eyes were drawn immediately to Sophie, whose blonde hair now covered her head in a short, even pixie cut that framed her smiling face perfectly. "Ms. Carter," Sophie called, running to Eleanor's desk with an envelope. "This is for you." Inside was a handmade card featuring a carefully drawn purple hat with golden sunbeams radiating from it. Below, in Sophie's improved handwriting, "Thank you for seeing me when I was hiding." At the classroom celebration, April arrived wearing a hospital administrative assistant uniform, her confident posture a stark contrast to the exhausted woman Eleanor had first encountered. "The children have a surprise," Eleanor announced, stepping aside as the class unveiled a large poster titled, community heroes. Among the drawings of firefighters and doctors were pictures of Sophie with her uncovered head, standing tall. For being brave, Lily explained, and teaching us that sometimes people need help, not judgment. As the families mingled, Eleanor overheard Patricia Chen speaking with April about the upcoming school board meeting, addressing Pinewood's transportation needs. The invisible barriers that had once divided their community were slowly dissolving. Later, as students said their goodbyes, Sophie hugged Eleanor tightly. "I don't need to hide anymore," she whispered. Eleanor watched Sophie join her mother, both walking into the sunshine without shadows of shame or secrecy following them. Some problems couldn't be solved in a single school year, but seeing what others overlooked, truly seeing the child beneath the purple hat, had started a change that would continue growing, one small act of compassion at a time.